to unravel this topic for us. And before we dive into the, this topic, just want to remind you all that we have Let Us Talk It sessions every week. And as you know, this forum is created to create an informed and empowered community. So we have sessions from Tuesday through Thursday, typically the work and life webinars on technology and health and other relevant topics. And also we have youth webinars which are typically on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we have two yoga classes as well, Wednesday evening and Sunday morning. These are all US, New York Eastern Standard Time. And also we have some exciting, topics for the rest of the week. Where we are going to talk, for example, tomorrow about artificial intelligence for non-technicals, how to understand artificial intelligence without too much, technicalities. And then on Thursday we have Get Rich and Stay Rich. That is about fundamentals of investing. And then we have the youth webinar this Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, where the youth is going to talk about the universe, origins, myths, and theories, and the mysteries surrounding the evolution of our universe. So yeah, there is a lot going on every week at Let's Talk It. Now, I would have the pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Paul Claxton. Regarding this topic, maintaining equality and relevance amidst the new global tech economy, there are unseen, intangible forces driving our global economies. But what are these forces? Some people say that the technology has increased the inequality, but it really appears that technology has just simply changed the global economy and probably made more opportunities for equality. So, in the end, who become the winners and losers in our society, based on how well the organizations and individuals understand and adapt to these unstoppable and unseen changing forces. So, Paul is a serial entrepreneur and a technologist, and I have here a great introduction for him, a long one. He was awarded as a a business leader, and he's a previous active duty, highly decorated U.S. Marine who spent 11 years on active duty and completed 4 tours in Iraq. He has been an entrepreneur with extensive global experience and with a reach in multitude of industries and job functions. And he worked with clients across the globe in Middle East, Mexico, Europe, USA, China, and Africa. So also, Paul has now recently started and led two different bootstrap companies, and leading them from conception with zero revenue to over 200K per annum revenue within 60 to 90 days. So he also has tremendous depth in venture capital and has secured well over several millions in venture capital commitments over a year period. So most recently, he has started a Masters of Liberal Arts program at the Harvard Extension School. And he's also working on authoring his first book titled Building the Nucleus.com, and he has filed for nonprofit status of the triple4.org. So, we are really privileged to have Paul here today with us. And not just that, he also mentors veterans on vetraki.com and has previously worked at boutique headhunting firms, Fortune 500 staffing companies, marketing agencies, and bootstrap startups and high growth startups and project management firms. And definitely, we can always, schedule an exclusive advisory service for Paul at bandbusinesses.com slash recruiting for advisory. We are going to display that as part of the slides as well. Oh my, that was such a long intro, Paul, and really thoroughly impressed. And definitely, there is something that, we can learn and take away from today's session. We are so glad for your time for the community. We are already at the time mark of 12:14. So we'll get started. Feel free to share your screen and the slides and enlighten us today.
Thank you so much. Just give me 1 second to share my screen here. And can you see my screen?
Yes, looks good.
Great. So thank you for the lovely introduction. Excited to be talking about today's topic and how we can maintain equality and relevance amidst the unseen driving forces in our new global tech economy. I think that relevance and equality are two big topics of major concern, and I think it's on the forefront of everybody's minds given the events of 2020. So without further ado, we'll go on to the first slide of the presentation. I think that everybody would agree that we're in a global shift of relevance, out with the old and in with the new. Well, what does that mean? With the emergence of data and digital, everyone on Earth has been allowed a voice. We are more integrated as a global society than we ever have been before. With a greater focus on humanity and human rights, a number of the movements over the last 2 decades have taken place that have engineered certain schools of thought, so to speak, aimed at overcoming social barriers, demographic barriers, and political and lifestyle crises, as well as responding to things like natural disasters. Some of these movements have included things like freedoms to marry, women's rights advocacy, Black Lives Matter, and the emergence of tech in the new world in terms of how can we put new policing and reforms and regulation around all this and continue to advance these movements and the causes behind them. So tech is really at the center of all this, with accumulation and the culmination of all these movements and the recent developments here in 2020 with the global pandemic, as well as the focus on civil rights and the pandemic. We have realized that we're in a critical juncture of transformation, global transformation and policy shift. This transformation has created the emergence of a new world order, so to speak, almost in one instantaneous shift. Before, we've seen these things happen in gradual paces over the course of months or years, but this has seemingly happened almost overnight. And so, once again, technology is at the center of all that and will continue to be at the center of all that in terms of how we manage it and move forward as a society. The data and digital are the main ingredients to achieving this dominance towards what I would call economic equilibrium and economic equality. But when we talk about economic equilibrium and equality, what is its significance to the new world order, the new way of life, the new way of doing things and thinking about things? What is that significance? Equilibrium and equality. We cannot have one without the other. What is equilibrium and equality? Equilibrium is a state in which, by economic definition, in which supply and demand balance each other out. When the supply of goods meets the requirements or the expectations of consumer demand, we have achieved total economic equilibrium. Suppliers are selling and consumers are getting the products they want. We're in a happy society at that point. We've never really totally achieved complete economic equilibrium. I don't think that that will ever exist, at least in 100% in terms of functionality, but we've definitely gotten close, and we continue to get closer as we begin to implement and integrate new forms of technological advancements. And equilibrium ultimately drives us to a point of equality. Equality, what is that? Equality is the equal distribution of income and opportunity between different groups in society. The equal distribution of social inclusion across multiple spectrums in demographics and geographies. It's a concern that most countries in the world face today, and many people are trapped in disadvantaged situations with little way out, little sight at the end of the tunnel. But being born in a disadvantaged situations does not automatically mean that you have to stay there. And this is where we get into my theory of perpetual velocity, which I'll talk about later. So what's driving economic equilibrium and equality? A humanity of needs is driving equality. Things like instant gratification solutions, factual information, safety, security, a need for belonging, shelter. All these things are what drive us to make decisions and what drive us to improve and create and innovate technological advances that can improve people's lives and advance society forward and preempt crisis before they take full fold. And this would essentially be Maslow's hierarchy of needs that are driving our economy forward. There are many uncertainties and concerns around the future. And this is what is ultimately driving supply and demand, which in turn also is based on the needs of society. So these concerns essentially drive supply and demand, which are based on the needs of society, or Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which we just covered. What are these concerns? These concerns involve everything from shelter, such as unemployment. Is tech taking our jobs? Is there a influx of inequality taking place? Privacy. What data that I put out and shared through either text message or on social media, what data truly is secure? Depletion of resources. Will I wake up tomorrow and turn the faucet on and not have water? Privacy. Oh, we already covered privacy. Sorry. Looks like I had a double typo in there. Financial and political corruption. So as we begin to make decisions in response to global crisis, policy shifts that could potentially affect the masses, where there might be division that exists, how does financial and political corruption implement at the broader scale, but then affect us individually, and how do we respond to that? I think that is definitely at the core of our thought process every day. And what is the long-term viability of certain policies, and what does that mean for us now, but also 3, 5, 10 years down the road? Social inequality, crime and violence, and natural disasters. So in response to some of these top concerns that are kind of ubiquitous and redundant across countries throughout the world, supply and demand will happen ultimately at the organizational, at the governmental levels, and we will continue to respond to these concerns almost as macro societies, so to speak, or collective societies, and will respond to the needs of the human race, the evolving needs of the human race. May the force be with you. When you think of some of these adjectives here, smaller, equality, faster, better, instant consumption, equality in safe, secure policy, privacy, displacement, gratification, education, and trust. What do those mean to you? I think they mean different things to different people in certain parts of the world. But one thing is for sure, they do breed innovation. We live in an innovation economy, a creation society, because of a global shift in social norms. Environmental change and technological advances are changing consumer expectations that we're experiencing proliferous and innovation and change. What does that mean? It means that we're leaving from a service-based economy to a product-based economy. We're moving back from consumption and towards sustainment. That means that no longer are we necessarily relying on services to fulfill the needs of the economy, but the economy dictates that we create new products. And because of this decentralization that is kind of taking place here, a different type of product economy has evolved. A superpower, almost like a super advanced, environmentally conscious product economy has evolved. In the early 20th century, all the way into the 1990s, we were global economies largely forced in manual labor production of soft goods, textiles, physical infrastructure, building roads, and so forth, building certain products like stoves, refrigerators, and so forth. But now, by and large, we have machines to do all of that. Today in the 21st century, many of these technological advances can replace all of that manual labor.